Hey guys, my name is Ryan. I'm a tutor in the Econ Tutoring Center. Today I'm going to do a few problems about the market for loanable funds, and we'll see how the interest rate changes given a change in savings or investment. Remember that language and notation may vary by professor, so always check to confirm that the language we're using is the same as your professor's. Okay, so we're going to look at a few questions here. These first couple are just about remembering the definitions of investment versus savings. So the first question here is our kind of reminder of what savings and investment are. Really, the big difference is that investment stresses purchasing new capital as opposed to putting your money into something that isn't, getting you more physical capital or something like that. So a bond or a deposit at a bank, right? So if you purchase a bond from a local tech company, that's categorized as savings based on this definition here. So, we'll just write savings here. Right, and if you borrow money from a bank to invest in equipment to start your own company, by this definition again, because you're purchasing new capital, you're using new money that you take from the market of loanable funds, which I'll talk about in a second, to buy new equipment. That's categorized as investment. Right, so increasing savings would increase the supply of loanable funds, whereas an increase in investment, so people borrowing money to buy equipment or invest in capital, would increase the demand for loanable funds, as we'll see in a second here. Right, so in this problem it says there are three investors, Aaron, Clay, and Jordy, and they all have $10,000, and they're trying to decide what to do with it. So they have they each have investment opportunities on their own, right? Where Aaron could earn 3%, Clay could earn 4%, and Jordy could earn 10%, right? So if they took that $10,000 and they invested it into whatever their respective investments are, that's the rate of return they would get, right? So another question says the market interest rate is 5%. Who would be supplying funds and who would be demanding funds? So the market interest rate, that says that if they save their money, right, they would get 5% back, whereas if they borrowed money, so if they demanded loanable funds, they would have to pay an interest rate of 5%. So Aaron and Clay, when they invest their money, they're only getting 3 or 4%. So it makes more sense for them to supply their loanable funds or to save their money, which would increase the supply of loanable funds, because they're getting a higher return, which is 5%, versus what they would get on their investments, 3 and 4%. Right, so supplying funds, right, is Aaron and Clay, right, and then demanding funds, demanding would be Jordy, right, because Jordy gets 10% on whatever his investment is, right? So it makes sense for him to borrow money at a 5% interest rate and then go invest that in whatever his investment opportunity is and get 10% on that, right? Because he's getting a net 5% benefit from that. So Jordy is going to be demanding loanable funds, right? Because he's going to be using his investment as these guys are just going to decide to save. Okay. So in this case, the equilibrium interest rate is that market-determined interest rate of 5%. So if we have our supply of loanable funds and our demand for loanable funds, this equilibrium interest rate is the one determined by the market, which in this case would be 5%, and this would tell us what the equilibrium quantity of loanable funds would be. Okay, so imagine again it's the same question about Aaron, Clay, and Jordy. What is the main economic concept explaining why Aaron would not fund his own project, but rather put the money in the open market? So remember, if the market's in equilibrium at 5% here, right, here he's going to be getting a return of 5% if he supplies his money to the market for loanable funds, right? As opposed to if his next best option, which would be putting it in the investment here, he earns a 3% return. So like I explained before, we call that his opportunity cost, right? Because his next best option would earn him a 3% return, whereas if he supplied his money to the market in loanable funds, he receives this equilibrium interest rate of 5%. So the economic concept here is really his opportunity cost is higher. So he wants to supply, he chooses to supply his money to the market for loanable funds. Okay, hopefully that helps you understand a little bit more about the market for loanable funds. If you have any more questions, come to the Econ Tutoring Center.